Welcome to the podcast, Hopeful Horizons, the bridge where hope and healing meet. Our mission is to create the environment and resources to get people across the bridge from the post-COVID experience to a future filled with hope. Please welcome our host, Holly Porter, founder of Adventure Bucket Wish Foundation.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our show today. We're going to be interviewing another long COVID survivor, but who also we call sufferer, right? Because they're still suffering. Long COVID is not fun, but we're going to try to have some fun here today. Remy was born and raised in New York City, although she doesn't live there now. She is married and has 5 children. 3 of them are not biologically hers, but they are to her because she's raising them. So she'll talk a little bit more about that and their disabilities and challenges that she has. She's been extremely active her whole life prior to COVID, and then she became disabled after catching COVID in 2021. She advocates for the disabled community by spreading awareness on social media. So welcome to the show, Remy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate you. I know it took us a little while to get our schedules together to get on here and set this up, but I'm excited to have you and just have you share your story. And that's really where I want to start with all this. If you could just give us your personal experience from COVID and how it's impacted your life.
So prior to 2021, was in the best shape of my life. I was in the gym working out 6 days a week. I was very active, 5 kids. I was super mom. I dedicated my life to these children. And after I caught COVID twice in 2021. The first time I developed asthma. And then the second time I caught it, I became disabled. So I had 7 months straight of bronchitis after I developed COVID the second time. And I was gaslit I'm still gaslit, but not as bad as the beginning. It took about 2 years to finally get a diagnosis.
So what does your day-to-day look like?
I am mostly bedbound. I have lung sensitivity. Some people call it reactive airway disease. Some people call it multiple chemical sensitivity. Pretty much when I come into contact with an irritant, whether it's environmental or certain foods or fragrances, I end up having an asthma attack or like an allergic reaction. It always affects like my lungs. And because my lungs are so sensitive, I can't even go out for walks. I don't exercise. I can't exercise. I have something called chronic urticaria, which is a mast cell disorder, which pretty much makes you allergic to your existence. I get random swelling, like of the lips, the eyes, rashes on my body. I've experienced hair loss, hair shedding. It's affected all kinds of organs in my body, like my stomach. I was 150 healthy, and then after COVID I shot down to like 115, 120. Now I can't do the things that I love. I was also into crafts. I did a lot of like things with paints and glues, and I did things with glass, and I can't even do the things that I love doing, which was exercise and any kind of craft. Also, I was into renovating homes and things like that. I was doing some of that, and I can't do any of that. So I've had to learn to live differently. Life looks a lot differently. I'm really not active. I rarely leave my house. I leave once a month to get a biologic shot for my chronic urticaria. But I get sick every time I leave my house, even with a respirator. Industrial grade respirator. Industrial.
Wow. Well, I know the biologics too. Those kill your immune system as well. And so it's just like you're already down. It's like kicking you again when you're down, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And when you get sick, does it last a long time?
So it depends what I come into contact with. So if I come into contact with, a fragrance that's not as irritating, sometimes I could be down for like a week where my asthma's just not responding really to medications. And then other
Yeah.
times, if I come into contact with something as strong as like, something alcohol based, perfume, smoke, anything like that, chlorine, when I come into contact, the most triggering place for me are hospital settings, clinics, because they use all
Alcohol.
these things. They clean everything with alcohol based products, all
Yeah.
of that. And that's why I flare up when I go to the doctor's office,
Mhm.
because I have to come into contact with that in order to get my shot. I mean, they have to clean my arms with the alcohol. And even though
Right.
I'm using an industrial grade mask, I still end up having really bad asthma, and it takes weeks for me to recover. Like, I can't leave my house, I can't do anything because it'll just progressively get worse. I have to literally stay in one place in my house until it somewhat goes back to baseline.
Wow. Yes. I think a lot of people, even listening, if they don't have long COVID or if they know someone that does, it's really good to let them hear these stories of how much people are suffering, because
Mhm.
everybody wants to turn the dial out for COVID, right? Nobody wants to hear
Yep.
about it. And the ones that have long COVID definitely don't want to be going through it or hear about it. And then that's our
Mhm.
daily life. And so I think it's really good that we can have that. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Um, are there specific challenges or obstacles that you face in terms of getting a proper diagnosis or treatment from long COVID? You mentioned a little bit about a holistic side, right?
Yes. So, um, after being I gaslit for 2 years, I doctors didn't believe me. It got to the point where I was gaslighting myself because my body was doing things that didn't make sense to me. I was like, why am I having these allergic reactions to things I smell, touch, eat? Like, literally, all my senses were attacking me, and it was just heightened sensitivity. And I'm like, what is going on? And when you tell that to a doctor, I'm
Yeah.
telling doctors like, hey, my heart rate does this, my sense of smell is so heightened, I'm getting asthma attacks, anaphylaxis symptoms. Like, they're looking at me like that's not a thing. I also, when I come into contact with certain smells, I also feel like I get like the flu. So when I mean like I'm down for a few weeks, I'm actually feeling like I have the flu for weeks and weeks, and it's attacking my respiratory on top of that, and it takes weeks.
Yes.
Um, so it got to the point where I was getting nowhere with doctors, and I was advised to seek functional medicine. And I didn't even know what that was. I had to Google it. I was like, what is functional medicine? And it was the best decision I ever made. I was skeptical about it, because you are paying out of pocket. So what
Right.
I did is I did research, and I found a 5-star doctor here in the local area, and I love her. She saved my life. When I contacted her, I remember she was on vacation, and when I told her the state that I was in and how much weight I lost, I wasn't able to eat. I couldn't eat. I was so ill, incredibly ill. My body was rejecting food because I was constantly having allergic reactions every day, all day. And it got to the point where I was afraid to eat. So she said to me, "You know what? I'm on vacation, but I fear for for your life. I'm going to take you immediately." And she had me take supplements. She did all these tests. She did a genetic test and all these things. And of course, she said, "Look, I know this is going to sound weird, but there's going to be some lifestyle changes and supplements and a diet that I never heard of, which is a low histamine diet."
Yeah.
I followed what she said. I was skeptical, but I did it because I was like, there's no one out there to help me.
Right.
And I will say this, she completely, like, my stomach issues that I was having improved significantly, to the point where I almost have no stomach issues. And then after that, it kind of opened doors, because once she started treating me and she started teaching me like about the mast cell disorders, I was like, well, what is that? And then once I started doing research, then I started fighting with the
Yeah.
doctors, the medical doctors, and was like, look, this is working. So, and then people started listening to me.
Right.
So now I
It's
have
hard to
both.
find somebody, a doctor that will listen. And my doctors
Hmm.
here would tell me, you teach us, like we learn from you. And I'm thinking,
Hmm.
well, why don't I bill you then?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not coming in
Yep.
here to educate you. I'm coming in here for
Yes.
help.
Yes.
Oh,
And
man. And you hear it's like a broken record. You hear that anyone with long COVID, for the
yes.
most part, has had those same challenges. I mean, it's a new disease and people just don't know. They don't have those answers. And
Hmm.
the good thing is, I have met, since I started the nonprofit, I have met people that are 100%. And even if they were as bad and on a ventilator like I was, they they're 100%. And I'm jealous. Like I want to be them.
Yeah.
But every
Yeah.
day, we just work at whatever we can to feel better,
Yeah.
and better's better is what I say. So
Yes.
we got to keep moving
Yes.
forward. But
We'll take the
definitely,
small
I think it's a
wins.
mental game a lot too, don't you?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
It
for sure.
is.
Let's talk about how long COVID has affect your relationships with your family, friends, colleagues, like that. So you're going in the third year now since
Yes.
you were infected. So what does that look like with that?
So I would say if I didn't have my asthma so severe, I would still, yes, have the mast cell issues, but at least I'd be able to go outside. I think that's what I'm fighting for every day, to go outside, because that was something my husband and I did when I was
Yeah.
healthy. We were active 6 days a week, and he was my workout partner,
Yeah.
and we every day he'd come home from work and we'd go out for a walk, and that was our break, from the kids that are teenagers. They're all teenagers now, and we would go for walks, and that was our time of being together. And we can't do that anymore. Once in a blue, if I feel well, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to risk today, and I want to do it. And so I have pushed my body, but there's consequences for it. But some days I'm like, I have to it's a mental thing.
Yeah.
And so it has it has changed the dynamic of the relationship with me and my husband, where we've had to learn to be creative on
Yeah.
how we can be romantic with each other. I'm like, well, we can't go out for picnics, but we can do picnics in the house. We're now gamers. We weren't gamers before, so
I was going to ask you about that.
yeah, now we do games. We play Uno and we do board games, and we find ways. And I will say, what I've learned from this experience is you do learn with chronic illness who is really in your corner. And it showed me that my husband is rare, and him and my children have been my biggest blessing. As far as friends and family, I was shocked how it could have put money, thinking that my friends that I was there for during their tough times would have my back as well. I was so confident in that. And I will say, um, they're not here, but it hurt. It stung. It still hurts
Yeah.
a little bit. But at the same time, you have to kind of see the glass half full. And I'm like, you know what? They made room for the new people in my life, because
Yeah.
this journey has connected me with other long haulers. And that's my family now.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So I'm not too mad at it, because, life it has its own filter, and it
Yeah.
filtered out what I don't need right now.
Well, there's reasons and seasons people come into your life
Yes.
for, and sometimes they serve their purpose, and it's
Yep.
okay. We just have to
Yep.
let them go, right? Love
Let them
people where they're
go.
at. That's really all
Yep.
we can do.
Hmm.
Sometimes I think people can't handle seeing you going through what you are, and they don't know how
Hmm.
to there for you, so then they're not for you there for you at all.
Mhm. Mhm.
Tough.
Yeah. It is.
Um,
It's tough.
what would you say? I ask this a lot to people on our show. What would you say would be the best way for you personally to get support? Like when you're not when you're not feeling well. What is, I don't know what your love language is, but like what is your best avenue of support that you feel like you're heard or feel better getting?
You meaning like friends, family? Um,
Anybody, just in
um,
general. Yeah.
I I have a bestie. She's chronically ill, and it's like my family. What they do with me is they now know like when mom's really having a really tough time, they let me rest. If they know that mentally, because sometimes it may not even be all physical, it takes a toll on your mental, because I develop a lot of cabin fever because I can't
Oh
go out.
yeah.
So there are times that my mind goes into this dark place because I'm like, I see the seasons passing by and all I can do is look from the window, and it really upsets me, and the holidays aren't the same either. Thanksgiving's not the same. I used to cook. I can't do that. They haven't had Thanksgiving for what, 3 years now. So,
Right.
but they support me by asking, "Hey, mom, what do you need today?" And I think that's pretty much all I need from people is, "What do you need?" And then sometimes they don't understand me because they're not chronically ill,
Right.
so they don't. And sometimes, they're honest. They're like, "Mom," or my husband will say, "Honey, I don't understand what you're feeling, but what do you need?" And then I have my long COVID friends, and I have chronically ill friends that are like, that I can call, and I know that they understand what I'm going through, and then that brings comfort as well. And you know that's how I do it. I just know who's there and who's not. And um I think I think that's how I get through my day to day, just my small circle. I feel very well supported by my small circle.
Well, sometimes that's all you need,
Yeah,
right?
not quantity, quality. So I
That's
have
right.
quality.
What would you say to others that maybe have a newer diagnosis of long COVID, or somebody out there that suspects? I always say if you have health issues that you didn't have before you got COVID, some people just are not connecting the dots. And I got new statistics. It was always, hovering 65 million documented cases. So there's more. And then I got statistics for 85 million, and then I was getting some blood work done with one of my newer doctors, and he told me he read somewhere it was over 100. And
Wow.
he said, there's way more than that. This is what my actual doctor said. There's way more than that because those are
Mhm.
documented cases that we know about. So I believe the reason it's got up so much more is because people are figuring out that's what it is now. Like they're
Yes.
starting to connect the
Connect the
dots.
dots.
So for someone that's just newly thinking this right now, listening, or they just got newly diagnosis, how would you recommend they navigate that if you were new to it? Like if you just found out knowing
This
what you
is
know now.
a really good question. I would say go with your gut. If your doctor's telling you, "Oh, it's nothing. Oh, it's anxiety. Oh, and you know in your gut, I don't care how much college they have under their belt. No one has written a book with, our biology as individuals is not in college. I'm sorry.
Right.
I am
Right.
not textbook.
Yeah.
And if a doctor's talking to you like they know your body, go on to the next one. Join support groups.
Yeah.
I learned so much when I joined support groups, and I was able to find medications that have improved my quality of life. And I was able to even tell the doctors, "Hey, is there any way you can prescribe me this?" And they were like, "I've never heard of that." And then I would go research, print your research,
Yeah.
and bring it to your doctor. The other thing that has made a huge difference, and I do have this template available on it is on my TikTok and on my socials, but I
Okay.
created a template which organizes my medications, my symptoms, and it tells a little bit about my story. I go very organized. I print everything out. I drop I drop this template off maybe 2 days prior to my appointments. Sometimes I slip a pen in there, saying thank you. And I
Yeah.
give them the copies 2 days beforehand so that I don't have to talk as much and you don't look so scatterbrained. I make a copy,
Right.
I bring it with me to my appointment so that I'm on task, because when you are just spilling over, they're going to say, "Oh, you're anxious."
Yeah.
And I learned when you go organized, there's less
Yep.
talking involved because they already read your template. And now it's to the point where they're just like, "Well, let's talk about treatment."
I love that.
So,
That is a good tip. The only thing I would add to that is take an advocate or make sure you record with your doctor if you don't have anyone there with you, because the brain fog's real with long COVID, and if you don't have someone there, and it's not just having another body in the room isn't what he knows, or maybe record it and have someone else there because they may have heard it differently than you, or they may forget some things. And I think that's so important. But I had never even thought about doing that. And so we'll make sure we put your information of where they can follow you on social. And if you have like a link to that template or anything, we'll make sure we
yes,
put that
I
in the
do
show
have
notes.
it. Yep.
Anything else you can think of that might help somebody on this journey?
Don't give up. If you hear from a doctor, there's a possibility there's no cure. I do understand that some people have organ damage and there are some things, but I will say this: I'm always keeping up with the science. And
Yeah.
there was a place where I was like, man, they're telling me there's no cure for what I have, this mast cell disorder, but I'm keeping up with the science and research is advancing. And I always have to see the glass half full and say, you know what? Every day I fight to stay alive, even though I don't want to be here some days, is a day closer I am to possibly finding, there's gonna be a breakthrough.
Yeah.
So always stay up with the science, because your doctors aren't. You're
No.
going to have to keep up with the science, and you're going to have to update them with the science so that you can get a hold of what's going to give you quality of life.
Absolutely.
And talk to someone when you get into a dark place. Reach out to someone. Don't sit in your thoughts, because when you're in a room all day and you sit in your thoughts, it's going to take you to a place you can't get out of. And so I find things to do, like, I like I said, the board games, I try to stay active with people in my circle. And if I can't, I joined socials, because that's how I was able to get a hold of friends from all over
Yeah.
the world. I can't travel the world, but I can tell you I've been to Germany, I've been to Italy, I've been to
Yeah.
Greece from my bedroom, because I've met people all over the world that have been a blessing. And that's why I'm here, because of people that I've met online. And I feel like I am out of my room, at least talking to these people from all over the world. That's my way of getting out. So just keep finding ways to stay busy so that you're not in your thoughts, I would say.
I, okay. Well, I love that. Well, thanks for taking the time to come and share your story, share those thoughts, share those tips. They're amazing, and I'm sure anyone listening got something out of them, and hopefully we can get some new things happening. But yeah, those advocate groups are amazing. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Thank
we
you.
could list some of them on here, but we actually, with our nonprofit, have a Facebook group I was sharing with Remy as well, called Adventure Bucket Wish. And there's a page that anybody can follow, but the group is just for people with long COVID. And thank you. We'll make sure all those links are listed here so you can find them. If you're listening to this video, just know everything will be in the show notes. So, and if you listen to
Thanks for
audio,
having me.
yeah, thanks for joining us today, everyone. Have a great day. Bye for now.
Our biggest dream and desire is to bring lasting impact to the lives of the millions experiencing long COVID effects and symptoms all across the world. Please join us. You can reach out to us at adventurebucketwish.org.